This is 1 mana left. And haven't done a video in a while here because kind of in PoE 2 waiting room. We had the early access beta delayed till December 6th. But in the meantime, they threw us a bone and gave us a kind of placeholder league that was a Settlers revamp with the Lantern. I've been playing this league. We're like, I don't know, 10 or 11 days in now. I went in without a square plan because I just wanted to test stuff. So usually for a real league start, I go in with like a set plan. I have the build already pre-tested. Everything's planned out. This league, it's not a real league. It's a pretty limited trade league. There's not a lot of people playing. So I decided to just run this, just wing it and try to test something that I thought I could maybe make a little broken. And I haven't gotten very far in what I actually want to test yet. Because the purpose of this character is to kind of push endurance charges to the limit. Because this league, they were changed to be LE and Fizz damage reduction. And with this node, you can get up to 5% per. So the end purpose of this character is to get to 14 endurance charges for 70-70 reduction. And just kind of show how broken Divine Shield is in that scenario. But for now, since I'm just kind of progressing the character, I'm going to show you what I've been playing. Right now, the overall budget of the character that I'm equipped right now is only like 60 to 65 divines. Not that expensive considering what this can do to Ubers right now. I just ran like 96 to 97, just doing like pretty much Ubers the entire time, just because they're like not really able to kill this character. It's very, very, very tanky with insane regen, so it's really hard to die. You'll see that here in a second. The damage, I'm still exploring a little bit. It's okay. It's not as good as like Zenith, but I'm kind of testing this character with the assumption that Zenith will be nerfed. So it's obviously a lower damage effectiveness setup, but it's abusing some mechanics to do some ridiculous recovery and ridiculous tankiness. And unlike endurance charges on like a Zenith character, where I've personally experienced how invincible you can feel with endurance charges, and how absolutely glass you can feel if something takes your charges away. So I wanted to lean into Relikesh here, with then some Arn's Anguish and Eventuality Rod, and try to get my endurance charges pretty high. I'll keep talking while I do some Simulacrum waves here. The character's pretty good for, you know, Simulacrum. It's pretty good for Uber bosses. It's an okay mapper, but not, I mean, like, an actual zoomy character will map a lot faster. Just because the fact that, the one thing it's got going for it is it gets some pretty crazy good attack speed. Which means you leap slam really fast, and, you know, attack speed was one of the main components for how fast your character moves, which is then one of the main components for how fast you can clear a map. So, it's still, though, based on having trauma stacks, so there's opportunity where you're going to be, like, unramped and doing low damage. Like, this is a wave 14 coast, so that's reasonably fast. I have, with everything up right now, like, peak 30 mil DPS, but, like, more sustained is more like 10 to 15, but like I said, for the current cost of the character, it's pretty dang cheap right now. But I'm going to be switching the setup in a little bit to a Flicker Strike of Power setup with, I'll do a separate, like, video on that. But the aim is to transition the build into Trauma Flicker Strike of the Power. And I have better hopes on that build for clear speed. I'm going to use the staff enchant for additional shrine buff every 10 seconds. I did a little bit of testing on that on the regular Settlers League, and as far as I can understand, it's much more powerful than I first thought when I first read it. Because it doesn't... I initially interpreted that enchant as saying you get a random shrine buff that switches every 10 seconds. That is not what it does. It just gives you a 10-second shrine buff, which you can scale with shrine duration, and it does not give you a duplicate shrine buff. It will give you a shrine buff you do not have, as far as I can tell, which is even more powerful. So if you run shrines on the Atlas, they last 18 seconds, and you basically have 2 of them up at all time, and they're non-repeating. And if you get things like some actual like shrine duration, they can last like 25 seconds. So there's some potential there. and this build scales really well with shrines, so I think when I start playing that setup, it's actually going to be pretty fun. It's kind of got that, like, Headhunter feeling, where it's, like, you get some giga powerful buff, and I'm going to run Soul Ascension on that, so I'm going to have, like, 55 Soul Eater stacks. So I think that Flicker Strike setup's going to be pretty dang good. But I have not played it yet, but that's just what I'm planning on transitioning into. I'll show an Uber Boss here, and then I'll talk about the character a little bit, how it works, then I'll show an Uber Shaper. Now, let's just go straight for the Uber Shaper. People want to see fighting. I'll try to talk through on the boring parts of Shaper here. So, the build is a Trauma build. I'm using Trauma Support somewhere in here. And the idea is that the skill's Double Strike and Momentum. If you read Double Strike and Momentum, it basically it stacks to 10 times. And the more stacks you have, the more attack speed you get. The more attack speed you get, obviously the more trauma you get and more damage. But, like, watch my regen here, alright? Look at my character's regen. I have 80,000 life and 50,000 energy shield regen right now. We'll get to that a little bit later. But, yeah, with full ramp, my character has about 100k life and 60k energy shield regen. You'll see some real stupidity on what that does on this fight. And the reason for that is because I have Juggernaut Untiring, which gives you basically fizz damage prevented turns to life regen. So if I'm doing a lot of self-harm with trauma, I'm preventing a lot of fizz damage. And the crazy attack speed of Double Strike and Momentum, which then, you get 10... It doesn't take long to stack to 10 with crazy attack speed. I'm using Blitz charges as well, as you'll see here, from the Flush Flame from Berserker, to give me 40% more attack speed. And so pretty much I'm just gaining all the attack speed I can with a really fast skill, Blitz charges. I'm using, like, faster attacks and momentum. I'm trying to get as much attack speed as possible to get a lot of trauma, a lot of stacks, a lot of flat damage, and then obviously more attack speed is more damage directly, so it double dips on attack speed. And that makes me do a lot of self-harm damage, which between Untiring and Divine Shield gives me insane regen. So that's pretty much what makes the character immortal. It's got a pretty good max hit just because, like, guaranteed endurance charges being up is, like, one of the best defenses in the game. Like, look how good the leap slam speed is, though, just, like, with, blitz charges up and everything. But, this setup, like I said, is about like, peak 30 mil, but that's, like, 12 seconds to ramp, so it's, like, you'll see it on the Shaper fight, but it takes a few seconds to get to that. But watch the power of the self-harm regen on this old man right here. Let's see how tanky I am. Let's see if this looks like an acceptable character here. So, and there's about a 3-second period where I'm getting the ramp up, but now that it's up, now I'm invincible here. So I can just sit here, watch this phase. Ready? Let's collect all the balls. Whee! Look at my life bounce. Let me hit them all. I'm gonna hit them all. So yeah, that's, let's see if I can tank all these clones too. I mean, like, it takes like 2 to 3 seconds to get going, and then you have like a 10-second infinite recovery loop. And you pretty much can't die. Like, I did like an entire level of just like a little bit of mapping and just a bunch of Uber Shapers to make money. And some Uber Elders, some Uber Exarchs. I actually died to one of the Uber Exarchs because one of the runes on the ground turned off regen. But, to like just the Uber Elder and the Uber Shaper, like from 96 to 97, I don't know how many I did, probably like, I don't know, let's just say 40. I died once. And it was because I had an issue where I ran out of mana on my initial ramp. So I didn't have enough mana to gain stacks because I had like some bad timing on like cast from damage taken, double triggering. With trauma builds though, cast from damage taken is like a free auto use. It's like an automate skill basically for non-instance. This is the worst case scenario where he immediately does this, so I don't really have time to get like my stacks up. And there's a death. Rip. Okay. I just said I haven't died in like 40 Shapers. And he immediately does the only combination that can kill me, which is the immediate bullet hell without even like 2 seconds to get ramp. I'm not, you can watch the, I'm not exaggerating when I say I did 40 of these deathless. Or 40 of these with 1 death. So of course that means for a video I'm gonna die to 1. I guarantee I'm the only person that uploads like PoE YouTube videos whose what they show in the video is like provably worse than like the live testing in the VOD. Like every single time this happens. You can watch 3 days of VODs. I had 1 death in 40 of these. Every time. Every time I do one of these. It's so dumb.
I cannot lose them.
They lie to you, Father.
Usually, he has like a 2-second pause where he does like 1 or 2 auto attacks, which is just enough time, if I can show it off here, for you to get enough like this. This is what he usually does. And there, I had enough time. Now I have stacks. Now I can hit them all. It's like 1 out of 20 where he does the immediate bullet hell. And then even then, you have to get hit by 3 at the same time to die. It's very, very unlikely. But, okay, there it is. Let's see if I got a 6 Divine Belt. I did not. If it's 3 charges, it's a 6 Divine Belt. But, alright. So, of course, I have a death trying to show it off. But, I'll go through, like, the tree a little bit. Just to kind of, like, you know, refresh up on the mechanic, though. It's pretty simple. You got an Eventuality Rod for max endurance charge. You got Arn's Anguish for max endurance charge. Any places you can get max endurance charge. If I had Synth Rings with endurance charge, this would be even better. You're going to always be considered at max. So then you gain with the Juggernaut Ascendancy brutal charges, which gives you triple damage hits. The stats on the belt are pretty nice too. They're really cheap. People just throw Corruption Orbs at these. So I bought this for 1 Divine. With the skill effect duration, which affects trauma, which is really good. I have +2 strike targets here. I'm doing Impale right now, just kind of as a filler because I'm pure Fizz. I'm not doing any Ellie conversion, so Impale's okay. It's just not a very good damage scaling mechanic in general. Like, Fizz to Ellie tends to be a lot better. But for what I'm doing and the investment I have, I don't have enough investment available to go Fizz to Ellie because you need to invest in Pen, and that's like a whole other layer of investment I can't do. So I'm just going to chill with Impale. And the next setup, I'm going to be doing Chaos conversion, actually. So it'll be a Chaos build for Flicker Strike. But, I mean, the tree is fairly basic. I'm doing 2 large clusters. I'm getting all 3 endurance charges. I'm getting Divine Shield. And I'm getting this duration wheel with the Mastery for 10% more. I'm doing just the attack Mastery for a little bit of reduced attack. And then I'm doing the Helm Implicit here for reduced attack with a Grand Ichor Tier 3, or Grand Ember. You need a little bit of attack reduction just because the cost is so high that with like 16 attacks per second, if it costs 10 mana, you'll never sustain that. But with, you know, 3 cost, it's pretty sustainable. But I also have 1 Jewel here with 2% of damage taken recouped as mana. And this, after like 20 or 30 trauma stacks, so like 2 to 3 seconds, you take enough damage that this pretty much like gives you all the mana you need. The Ascendancy itself, you definitely have to take Unrelenting. You definitely want to take Untiring, and then Undeniable is the top damage. You can't drop Undeniable for like Unstoppable. I think this is definitely the recommended play if you are doing Tier 17 maps, because like half the map mods in Tier 17s and like some of the bosses just screw you with action speed. So it's just so much nicer to have Unstoppable for Tier 17 mapping. Especially because a lot of those things scale with map mod effect, and if you're trying to farm Tier 17s aggressively, you're going to try to scale map mod effect for more reward. Which just, like, pigeonholes you into Unstoppable, because it's just, like, for Tier 17s, it is the best Ascendancy 2 points in the entire game of any Ascendancy. It's not even close. I guess the only argument would be like the Trickster 1 step ahead, because it's like basically the same thing. But the tree looks pretty Jugg-ish right now. It's pretty generic for that stuff, but yeah, the trauma, double strike, and momentum. I originally got this idea just kind of watching the Jugg Rudy made on Zenith, where he had the idea that, this league I made the Zenith build. Rudy decided to go the two-hand Mace Fizz's Ellie enchant and do double strike and momentum on a different 6-link to build trauma in Delve, and then switch to Zenith to kill everything once he got everything to spawn. It does a really good spike DPS. Like, you kind of build up trauma and then you just burst like 3 billion DPS for a few seconds. It's really good for like bossing on low budget. I tried to do that setup for my Gauntlet character, and in the testing, the character worked really fine. I just died to a strongbox in Gauntlet at like tier 10 maps, so I never got to play it in Gauntlet for bosses. But I plan to take this into Power Charge. This weapon, I just did a generic Awakener Orb. I did Endurance Charge on Melee Stun on the Elder, and then 20% more attack mod on the Shaper. Fused them together, tried to clean prefixes so I could craft the Fizz Damage Impale mod, and then suffixes just reinforce speed, and then like double slammed. This weapon is going to be for the next one. I'll talk about it more, but basically you do a double Awakener Orb for 2 clean 2-mod items, and then you try to do the multi-mod, and then craft 4 exclusive modifiers that can't get recombinated, and then recombinate those 2 into a 4-mod item. So it's like a double Awakener Orb, kind of. It's like taking, like, an Awakener Orb gives you 2 mods. That method can kind of give you 4 mods. So the goal was to get +1 Endurance Charge, T1 attack speed that I used a Shrieking Essence for, and then Endurance Charge and Melee Stun, 20% more attack. I missed the first one and only hit 3 mods, so I ended up doing a 3-2 combine on a second attempt, because if you miss that 2-mod and only hit a 3 mod, it's still kind of fine, because then you just have a 3 mod, then you go again with another 2 mod, and you do a 3-2, and then you're almost guaranteed to hit a 4, and even somewhat likely to hit a 5, which is even better. And that's what I did with this. I hit a 5 mod, and I then just craft attack speed, and I'm done. But, yeah. Scions is my enchant of choice, because this is the most broken enchant in the game for any strike skill. It lets you, like, off-screen with attacks. I didn't really show it off there, because I was just fighting bosses. But for, like, mapping, it's, like, really, really borderline mandatory for strike skills. Most people don't realize that this works on single target. I first read this and I was wrong about it. I thought it only meant your additional strikes, but it literally just means any strikes. Even just pure single strike. Like, I can hit Shaper from 4 meters away. It just makes your melee skill into a range skill. It's especially with additional, like with 3 strike targets like I have, because I have +2 on gloves. It's just the best quality of life thing in the game. So I think any strike skill should just be doing like +2 with Scions. It's just too good. I'm taking Melee Splash 2, just for clear. I don't think it's necessarily necessary. I have Devastator, which is pretty, like, these aren't the best pops. They're not a lot of radius, and they're not a lot of consistency. It's just a little bit better clear. Overlord is insane, because it's just free Fortify for maces and staves. Then I have another one with the Furious Assault's really good, because attack speed double dips for scaling. And then Ironbreaker means we can do Bastion Breaker without the Mastery to get 100% Fizz Overwhelm, which means I can take the 10% more Fizz Mastery, so it's really nice. But yeah, I will be doing Chaos for the Flicker setup, but yeah. Like I said, this was not like my super well planned out Giga Billion DPS S tier build that I usually do for like a new league. Like, I treated this as just like some group found private league that I was just going to use as like a sample, really restricted fresh economy test to just kind of learn this as I go. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. The only thing I'm unhappy about is that I just do a nice 20-minute video here, and I have my second death and 42 Uber Shapers for that. But you know what? Shit happens. So I'll see you guys next time.